Welcome back to my channel if you've been here before, and welcome if you are here for the first time. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this beautiful off-shoulder top, which came as a request. In my previous video, I showed you how to make the pattern for this top, so be sure to check that video out first before watching this video. So in all honesty, I was a bit worried, just a little bit worried, about adding two different types of detailings to the sleeve. Looking at it, I think it looks really good. I'm however interested in what you think as well. So please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Now I do need to let you know that you have to be very intentional with your fabric of choice. When I went to my fabric store, they didn't have what I wanted, which was a brocade or damask fabric. So I settled for this one, and the reason being that it had some structure to it, and I could also fray the end for this effect. However, this fabric also has a little bit of stretch to it, and I noticed that with more details on the sleeves started to fall down a little bit, and so I had to be scanty with the details. So in my opinion, the best type of fabric for this design is something that is structured and does not have any stretch to it whatsoever, so something like a damask or brocade fabric. Now I will be making this top again, however I think I'm going to extend my center front a little bit by 1 inch and take it right back to the side as this one. Alright then, let's get started already. Now don't forget to give this video as many likes as you can if you'd like to see more of these kind of videos from me. Also, have a look down and make sure you're subscribed and your notification button is turned on so that you do not miss out on anything whatsoever. My name is Ijeoma, and welcome to my sewing room. The materials you will need are your fabric of choice. I used about a yard of this crepe fabric, same yardage of lining and interface, measuring tape, fabric scissors, pins, Tailors chalk, long open and close zipper, and your manipulated off-shoulder pattern. I'll leave the full list as well as all associated links in the description box below. Cut your fabric according to the instructions on your pattern. Now don't discard the scrap pieces, you'll need them to cut the circles. You'll be cutting all bodice pieces on main fabric, lining and interface. The peplum and circles will be cut on main fabric only. You'll also need to cut 2 strips of interface about 1.5 inches wide and in the same length as your center back. Mark 1/8 inch notches on all asterisk points on the front and back patterns. Then go ahead and fuse all the interface pieces to the corresponding front and back lining pieces with your iron. Connect the front pattern pieces by placing right side on right side while matching notches. I also basted the curve to make sure that the fabric stays in place when sewing. Do the same for the lining pieces. And then sew all pinned areas with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, pressing your seam allowance open afterwards. Also pin your back, main and lining pieces together at the style line and by placing right side on right side. Sew all pinned areas with a 1/2 inch seam allowance and press the seam allowance open afterwards. On your main back pieces, pin and fuse your 1.5 inches wide interface on the wrong side of the center back. Then on the right side of your back pieces, first mark about 7/8 inch up from the hem on both sides and then go ahead and pin one side of your zip on its corresponding back piece
starting from the point marked at the hem and 1 inch away from the center back. So you'll be placing the right side of the zip on the right side of the fabric and ensuring that the teeth is facing the bulk of the fabric. When you're done on the first side, close your zip and then locate your notch marks on the side where you have pinned the zip down and transfer the notch marks to both sides of your zip with your tailor's chalk. Unzip the zip and then pin the other side of the zip to the other center back piece in the same manner, matching notches. When you're done, sew the zip down with your zipper foot. Now if you've used a long zip like me, do not cut off the excess at the top just yet. Then, placing right side on right side, pin your main front and back pieces together at the side and sew all pinned areas with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, pressing your seam allowance open afterwards. Also join your front and back lining pieces together at the side with pins by placing right side on right side. You will however need to leave about a 5 inch wide gap on one of the sides to be closed afterwards. Sew all pinned areas with a 1/2 inch seam allowance and press your seam allowance open afterwards. Then, with right side on right side, go ahead and join the main and lining pieces at the front and back neckline. You'll also be pinning the under armhole. So the only places you will not be stitching at the moment are the shoulder lines and off-shoulder extension on both sides. Stitch all pinned areas with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And you can now take off the excess zip at the top once you're certain that the zipper head is within the garment. Make notches close to the stitch line and trim the sewn seam allowance to 1/4 inch. When you're done, understitch the trimmed seam allowance to the lining fabric, starting 1 inch away from the center back on one side and ending 1 inch to the center back on the other side. Then connect the shoulder line by pinning the front and back shoulder lines together, right side on right side, and then sewing all pinned areas with a 1/2 inch seam allowance and pressing your seam allowance open afterwards. Then go ahead and test your garment now. Now it might be a little tricky with the lining at the back still open and you might need some help. But you want to make sure you test fit it right now and that the shoulders sit perfectly. Once you're happy with the fit, it is now time to complete the off-shoulder extension. So going in from underneath and in between the lining and the main bodice, go ahead and grab the open end and pin together. For easier movement, you will need to pin and sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance one side at a time on each sleeve. Once you're done, give it a good press. Then turn the garment right side on right side and pin the lining and main fabric together from center back through the hem and to the other center back. Go ahead and stitch close to the zipper teeth at the center back and with a 1/2 inch seam allowance at the hem. When you're done, turn your garment to the right side from the opening made at the side of the lining and then seal the opening by pinning the seams together and stitching down with 1/8 inch seam allowance. Then go ahead and give your garment a good press. Now we prepare the detailing. So we'll start with the circle details. So first, take 2 circles and place them wrong side on wrong side. Stitch together at the center with your needle and thread hold in place. Then fold another circle piece first in half and then in half again, and stitch the pointy end down to the center of the initial circle. Do this for 3 more pieces and you have a complete piece. Go ahead and do this for all your circle cutouts. Set these aside. Now onto the peplum. So we'll be fraying the sides and bottom of each peplum piece. So mark your seam allowance with your Tailors chalk at the sides and bottom of all your peplum pieces. Then go ahead and sew a zigzag stitch at the seam allowance lines made. And then carefully unravel the fabric at the bottom and sides like so, to about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch depth. Do this for all your pieces. Now we get to play with the placements. So starting with the peplum bit, you can pretty much arrange them the way you want. I decided to group them into 2, and that is a short one over a long one, and pin together at the inner curve to keep together. Then go ahead and pin the inner curve right side on one side of the sleeves, and with the bulk of the peplum away from the garment like so. When you're done pinning, you're going to be stitching down all pinned areas with a 1/2 inch seam allowance on the wrong side of the peplum so that it looks like this. Then arrange the second set of pieces in the same manner and stitch down the same way. Next, the circle pieces. So first pin your circle pieces one at a time and according to how you want it to be. And then go ahead and stitch each piece down with your needle and thread. And you're done! Now I would only make one difference, and that's extending the center front a little by perhaps 1 or 2 inches. So I've gone ahead and edited that in my pattern making video. Now apart from that, this top is so darn cute. I hope this video has been very helpful. Hit the like button if it has and you want to see more of this kind of videos from me. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out. Until next time, see you later. Bye.